My dad's widow tried to erase me. Then a sealed envelope in his safe made her lawyer go quiet. Hi, I'm Marcus, 32, and last month my stepmother tried to erase me from my own father's life until I reminded her whose name was on the damn paperwork. The text came in at 9:13 a.m. on a Friday. Hey, just a heads up, Brenda changed the locks. It was my cousin Nate. He lived a few streets over and used to mow our lawn in the summers when I was in college. We hadn't talked since the funeral. I stared at the message for a full minute, wondering if I was still dreaming. Then I looked at the coffee mug in my hand, the one with a chip on the rim and #1dad in faded red font. My stomach dropped. I drove straight to the house. The same house Dad and I moved into when I was 12. The same house where we'd built a tree swing out back, where I'd learned to change a tire in the garage, where I kissed my first girlfriend on the back porch. The house Dad spent his life paying off, fixing up, maintaining like it was his full-time job. And Brenda, his wife of 5 years, my stepmother in only the legal sense, had apparently decided it was hers now. I pulled into the driveway, and sure enough, the deadbolt had been changed. My key didn't fit. Not the front door, not the back door, not even the side entrance through the laundry room. Brenda's car was parked in the garage. I could see it through the window. She was home, just not answering. No note, no call, not even a courtesy, "Hey, I'm squatting in your late husband's estate property now." That's when it hit me. She actually believed she could outmaneuver me. Me, the court-appointed executor of the estate, with a full copy of the will, notarized and properly executed. Me, the sole beneficiary named for the house, with certified paperwork sitting in my file folder. It was a bold move, but Brenda forgot one thing. I'm not my father. Dad was kind, patient, willing to suffer fools to keep the peace. I am not. So I drove home, took out the will, the death certificate, my official executor appointment papers, and started making phone calls. First, the gas company, then water, then electric. Then, the next morning, I scheduled a meeting with our estate lawyer. You lock me out? Fine. You want to pretend this house belongs to you? Cool. Let's see how long you last when the accounts get transferred out of my dead father's name and the providers won't keep service running under a decedent's account for someone who isn't authorized to be there. Your move, Brenda. Saturday morning, 7:45 a.m., I walked into the county clerk's office with a black folder and the expression of a man who'd been locked out of his own childhood. I had every piece of paperwork lined up like a military inspection. Will, death certificate, executor appointment, certified copies of the deed, power of attorney revocation, even the utility bills still in my father's name. The clerk was this older lady with glasses on a chain. She glanced at my stack and just said, "Oof, step-parent situation?" I nodded. She slid me a fresh cup of county-issued burnt coffee. "Let's get you squared away." By 9:30, it was official. My executor appointment was on record, and the estate filings were current. My name was tied to the house through the will, and my authority as executor was documented the way it needed to be. It wasn't vibes, it was paperwork. Brenda wasn't just rude, she was occupying property without permission. I called the utility companies again, this time with documentation in hand. The reps were polite, even a little amused when I explained the situation. I didn't request anything shady. I requested the accounts be removed from my father's name immediately and that no new service be started or maintained under the old account without the authorized party present to confirm transfer and access. Liability matters, safety matters. And the minute you say, the account holder is deceased and I can't access the property because an unauthorized person changed the locks, you'd be amazed how fast "we can't keep this active" becomes the default.
Electricity was set to discontinue on Wednesday under the old account. Gas and water? Tuesday, same deal. New service could be established once I had legal possession and could verify occupancy. I didn't tell Brenda. I didn't warn her. She'd made it clear this was a power move, changing the locks before we even discussed the estate. She thought I'd roll over, let her play grieving widow and quietly hand things over like a good little stepson. Nope. What she didn't know was that Dad and I had handled this 3 years ago, at a corner booth at Sam's place over burnt coffee and hash browns. That man looked me in the eye and told me everything was meant for me. And Brenda? She'd get enough to start over, if she didn't try to screw me. Well, Here we were. Monday afternoon, I got a call from our estate attorney, Robert Chen. He'd spoken to Brenda after I'd forwarded him the lockout texts and my account transfer receipts. Apparently, she was upset, claimed she had no idea she wasn't entitled to the house. Chen laid it out for her in lawyer speak so gentle it probably felt like a lullaby. You do not own the house. You are not on the deed. The will is legally binding. You have until Friday at noon to vacate, or we proceed through the court for removal and pursue a civil claim for unlawful occupancy. He said she went quiet, then hung up. Tuesday, the gas discontinued under Dad's old account, then the water. Still no calls, no texts, not a peep. Wednesday morning, I was parked 2 houses down in my truck when the power company van rolled up. 10 minutes later, I watched Brenda stumble outside in a bathrobe, phone in hand, eyes wild. She stood in the driveway yelling into the wind for a solid minute. Then she spotted my truck. We locked eyes. I raised my coffee like a toast. She stormed back inside. By Thursday, Brenda had officially entered the 5 stages of grief, except she was running them all at once like a broken washing machine. First came denial. You have no right to do this. This was your father's home. He loved me. Then anger. I will sue you so hard you'll be begging me to settle. You're a monster. Your father would be ashamed. Then bargaining. Can we please just talk? Maybe I can stay a little longer and we figure out a compromise. By Friday morning, the texts were down to guilt-tripping whimpers. I don't have anywhere to go. You're just going to leave me homeless? I ignored every message. Not because I was being heartless, but because Brenda had her chance. Days of silence. Days of sitting in my dead father's house like she was entitled to it just because she wore a ring, not because she built anything. 11 a.m. Friday. I pulled into the driveway with Robert Chen and a sheriff's deputy there for civil standby. Because contrary to what people think, you don't just snap your fingers and have police evict someone. You do it the boring way. Filings, notice, court order. Then the deputy makes sure nobody gets stupid. Brenda opened the door wearing sunglasses, no makeup, and a sour look that could curdle milk. The inside of the house smelled like a dead fridge, stale air, and bad decisions. The deputy spoke calmly. Ma'am, you need to vacate the premises. You've been served notice, and there is an order for possession. You are not the legal owner of this home. She scoffed. This is my home. My husband lived here. I lived here. I have rights. Robert stepped forward and in the calmest voice imaginable said, Actually, no. This was your late husband's separate property. You are not on the deed. You were provided for in his will. He handed her an envelope. And this $25,000 fulfills that provision. You have 30 days to collect your personal belongings by appointment. Anything left after that is legally considered abandoned. Brenda looked at the check like it was a dead mouse. This is it? After everything I did for him? I nearly laughed. You mean the spa days and HDTV marathons? The dirty dishes and unpaid bills? Yeah, this is it. Her mouth opened, closed.
She looked at the deputy, hoping for sympathy. Got none. She walked out with nothing but a purse, a charger, and a dignity deficit she'd never repay. Got in her car, didn't say goodbye. The deputy turned to me. Want the locks changed today? I nodded. Already scheduled. As they left, I stood in the doorway and let it all sink in. The silence was deafening. For the first time since Dad died, the house was mine. Possession, control, reality. No performance, no pity party, no perfume cloud hovering like fog. Just me, and the quiet. And the war was over. The locksmith pulled up in a rusty van that had 24/7 lock and key spray painted on the side like a ransom note. He was in and out in 45 minutes, swapped every lock, handed me 5 identical brass keys in a plastic bag, and left without small talk. I stood in the living room with those keys in my hand, and for a moment I didn't know what to do next. The power was still off, so the house was dim. Just the pale winter light filtering through the blinds Brenda insisted on replacing with modern shears. The kitchen stank from spoiled food. Somewhere in the fridge was what used to be chicken salad. Now it was probably a biohazard. I walked through every room, slow. My boots echoed in the hallway. The house felt violated. She'd tried to erase him. The walls were painted open-concept gray. His dark blue office, now some off-white color with golden flamingo decals. I'm not joking, actual golden flamingos. What even was her aesthetic? Divorced influencer chic? The living room still had Dad's recliner, but shoved in a corner behind a massive cream-colored sectional I'd never seen before. On the coffee table sat 3 empty wine bottles and a mug that said, "Too glam to give a damn." I opened the door to the garage and nearly lost it. There, shoved against the wall like a box of junk, were the attic bins, the ones with Mom's stuff. Brenda must have dragged them out of the attic at some point and just left them sitting there like trash. The top box was open. Inside, Mom's recipe cards, the ones with faded ink and little grease smudges from years of actual use. Her wedding photo album, my baby blanket, a locket I hadn't seen since I was 10. I sat on the floor, didn't even notice the cold concrete. I held the recipe cards in my hand like they were sacred scrolls. Dad saved these for me. Brenda tried to throw them out. That was the difference. One of them built a life with me. The other tried to bulldoze over it. That night I stayed in the house, slept on a camping cot in the living room with a battery lantern and a space heater. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just the quiet hum of a house remembering who it belonged to. I woke up to the sound of birds outside the window, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. The next morning, I brewed coffee on a camping stove in the garage like I was on a survival show. Drank it black from a travel mug while standing in the driveway in my socks, watching the frost melt off Dad's truck. It felt weirdly peaceful. Me, the house, and the old Ford warming up like it had a soul. By 9 a.m., I was on the phone with the utility companies, getting everything started in my name now that I had access and possession. They were quick. Guess having all your paperwork squared away makes them their favorite kind of customer. Power would be back by 5, gas by tomorrow, water already flowing. Then came the cleaning. I started with the fridge, put on gloves, took a deep breath, and opened it. I'll spare you the poetry. It smelled of betrayal and rotting cheese. 3 hours, 4 garbage bags, and 2 full cans of Lysol later, I had it spotless. I tossed out everything Brenda left behind. Her kale smoothies, her half-used collagen serums in the bathroom, her Yugen leather throw pillows. Gone. Donated what I could. Trashed what no one should inherit. Then I started reclaiming. Dad's recliner went back in the center of the living room.
I found his old stereo system in the guest room closet, buried under a pile of dusty yoga mats. Hooked it up, played his favorite Springsteen album while I scrubbed the place like I was preparing for an inspection. Every drawer I opened, every cabinet I cleared, I found pieces of him. Screwdrivers, receipts, little notes in his handwriting. I couldn't take 3 steps without hearing his voice in my head. Wipe with the grain, not against it. Always use gloves with bleach unless you like cracked knuckles. If you're gonna do a job, do it right. And underneath it all, Mom's stuff. Photos, jewelry, a shoebox full of letters they wrote before cell phones were a thing. Brenda hadn't touched those, probably didn't even know they were there. I sat on the floor and read every one. My parents were dorks. Romantic, awkward, funny dorks. Dad signed every letter with, "Love you more, R." By Sunday evening, the house smelled like pine sol and lemon. Clean. Empty, but not hollow. The kind of empty that makes room for something new. That's when I found it. The fire safe. Tucked in the back of the bedroom closet, under a stack of flannel shirts Brenda had tried to hide behind a hanging shoe organizer. The combo was his birthday. Inside, his passport, the original will, some cash, about $3,000, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. The letter inside was dated 2 weeks before his death. Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hate that. But I trust you. This house is yours. Everything in this will is what I wanted. No guilt, no hesitation. I loved Brenda, but I wasn't blind. She made things easier in some ways, harder in others. I gave her what I thought was fair. The rest belongs to you. Take care of this place. You grew up here. It's full of ghosts, sure, but the good kind. Make it yours. I'm proud of you. I always was. Love you more, Dad. I read it 5 times. Then I put it back in the safe and sat on the edge of his bed until the streetlights came on. That night, I slept in my old bedroom. The walls were still blue. The ceiling still had those glow-in-the-dark stars we put up when I was 10. I stared at them until I fell asleep, wondering how many nights Dad lay here wondering if he made the right call marrying Brenda, working overtime, giving someone like her the benefit of the doubt. He wasn't perfect, but he did his best. And now, it was my turn. Week 1 after the removal, I hired a professional cleaning crew. 3 people showed up in hazmat-style gloves and started scrubbing like they were decontaminating Chernobyl. Brenda had left behind an unholy mix of fake eyelashes, empty takeout containers, and scented candles that all smelled like someone trying way too hard to pretend they had their life together. $600 and 6 hours later, the house finally felt clean enough to breathe in. Then I started moving in. My lease on the apartment downtown wasn't up for another month, but I didn't care. I brought my mattress, my desk, my TV, and a couple of boxes with things that actually meant something. A framed photo of me and Dad at a Seahawks game, the Zippo lighter he gave me when I graduated college, and an old football we used to toss around in the backyard. I kept going through his stuff bit by bit. His closet was full of flannel shirts and denim jeans, most worn down at the cuffs, but folded like museum pieces. His boots were by the back door, laces still tied. I sat on the floor and just stared at them for a while like they might get up and walk into the kitchen for coffee if I waited long enough. I didn't cry. I had already done that. At the hospital, at the funeral, in the garage. Now it was just quiet. Peaceful. Then came Brenda's first post-removal text. I need to come get some things. I'm being civil about this. Please be respectful. I forwarded it to Chen. We arranged a pickup window the following Saturday from 11 to 1. Brenda could come get her personal items. No furniture, no fixtures, no drama. She showed up late, of course.
Rolled in around 12:45 with her sister, wearing huge sunglasses like she was shielding herself from both the sun and her own bad choices. They spent 20 minutes grabbing clothes, makeup bags, some boxes of God knows what from the guest room. Didn't say a word to me, didn't even make eye contact. Just kept their heads down like shoplifters returning stolen merch. She didn't show up for the other 2 scheduled pickups. 30 days passed. I donated the furniture, called a charity, they brought a truck, and it was gone within an hour. Every last piece of her over-designed beige nonsense. I even kept the donation receipts for the tax deduction. Dad would have appreciated that level of petty thrift. By the end of the month, the house was mine. Fully and legally in the only ways that mattered day to day. Possession, control, and a clean paper trail through the estate. Clean, quiet, solid. Just like he left it. 3 weeks after the last scheduled pickup, I got a letter in the mail. Not a text, not an email, an actual physical letter. The return address was a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside, a 2-page attempt at intimidation from Brenda's new attorney. She was contesting the will, claimed Dad had promised her the house verbally, claimed the written will was suspiciously convenient, claimed she was entitled to more because she had sacrificed her career to support him. I laughed out loud. This woman hadn't worked in 5 years, unless you count online shopping and making vision boards. Her biggest sacrifice was probably missing a nail appointment once because Dad needed help fixing the garbage disposal. I forwarded the letter to Robert Chen. His response? Let 'em come. We'll bury it in court if they try. Brenda's lawyer must have realized the same thing, because that was the last I ever heard from him. No follow-up, no summons, nothing. Just a last desperate swing from someone who knew the clock had run out. Meanwhile, I got busy turning the house back into a home. The golden flamingo wallpaper in the office, gone. I repainted it Dad's original navy blue. The beige and gold curtains in the living room, ripped down and burned in a backyard fire pit I called my exorcism bonfire. The kitchen, repainted white again, just like Dad liked it. I even found the old recipe cards for Mom and bought a little wooden box to store them in on the counter. Every small change felt like reclaiming something. By month 2, I'd cleared out every trace of Brenda's decor. It felt less like I was erasing her and more like I was airing the place out, getting rid of stale energy and manufactured smiles. I moved my stuff in slowly, piece by piece, took my time, let the house breathe. One night, while setting up the old stereo system, I found a burned CD Dad labeled Backyard Barbecue Mix. I popped it in. Springsteen, Tom Petty, John Mellencamp, every song I remembered from our summer cookouts, playing on tinny speakers while Dad flipped burgers and argued with the neighbor about football. I stood there in the living room, hands on my hips, staring at nothing, and smiled for the first time in weeks. I started inviting neighbors over, just a few at a time. Mrs. Henderson brought lemon bars, said she was glad I was back. Mr. Donnelly from across the street showed up with his ancient beagle and a six-pack, told me stories about how Dad once helped him fix a lawnmower in the rain. Even the new couple down the block, young, awkward, still learning the neighborhood, came by and asked if I was the guy who saved the house from the crazy lady. I shrugged, something like that. The truth is, I didn't just inherit property. I inherited a legacy. This house was the product of my father's entire adult life. Every scraped knuckle, every overtime shift, every check carefully balanced against the mortgage and the grocery bill. It wasn't just where he lived, it was who he was. I knew I couldn't sell it. I didn't want to, not because of sentiment, but because of principle.
Brenda tried to hijack a life she didn't build, and I made damn sure she didn't get away with it. So, I stayed, fixed things up, hosted a small barbecue in Dad's honor. Neighbors brought beer and stories. I fired up the old grill, threw on some burgers, played that same backyard barbecue mix. At one point, I looked around the yard, the string lights, the folding chairs, the laughter, and it felt right, like the house was exhaling. Later that night, I sat on the back porch with a cold beer, watching the last embers fade in the fire pit, and I heard it, just barely, my dad's laugh. In my head? Probably, but it didn't matter. Because I laughed too. 6 months after Dad died, the house was mine in every sense, not just on paper, but in the way it held me. My furniture mixed with his, my routines folding into the ones I'd grown up with. I didn't try to make it modern. I made it familiar. The coffee mug rack stayed by the fridge, the creaky step on the porch, I left it. Even kept the 1993 calendar in the garage where Dad used to mark oil changes and lawn mowing schedules. Some things weren't broken. They were just his. Every Saturday, I still go to Sam's place. Same booth, back left corner. I order the Western omelet. The waitress always smiles a little extra now. Said she misses Dad. We all do. Sometimes I bring a newspaper. Sometimes I just sit there. And once in a while, someone will recognize me. Aren't you Marcus, George's son? I nod. Yeah. They handled that whole mess with his wife pretty clean, I heard. I just smile. Dad taught me to do things right the first time. The house is worth north of $420,000 now. No mortgage, utilities are low. I've got a solid job, zero debt, and a savings account Dad would have been proud of. I drive his old F-150 every day. Still runs like a dream. I change the oil myself, with his tools. I think a lot about legacy now. Not the kind measured in money, but in how you leave things behind. Brenda, last I heard, she was working retail and couch surfing with her sister, probably telling anyone who listened that I cheated her out of a mansion, that I was cruel, heartless, cold. But here's the truth. She gambled on a man's death. I honored his life. She locked me out. I opened every door with a key, a will, and the law on my side. Dad taught me not to shout, not to fight dirty, not to burn things down when I could take them back brick by brick. He taught me to stand still when someone tried to shove me, to speak plainly when someone tried to twist the truth, to remember who I am and what I'm worth. So I did exactly what Dad would have done. I handled it, and I went home.